I was reading reviews for this shirt that I'm wearing before I bought it, and some of the reviews were like, there was one review that said, it's very cute, but I don't like how the flowers are blue, you know. The flowers and lemons are not blue. I like it, but they're not blue. So another reviewer was like, I hate how this company now puts lemon on everything. I'm gonna be honest with you, I was actually kind of shocked to see lemons because they have been trending for like 3 years. And I'm like, lemons, really? I think lemons are already on decline in terms of trend. Hi, I'm Daria. I'm a textile and surface pattern designer and artist, both traditional and digital, which means I use both regular art tools and materials like watercolor and digital tools such as different software, Adobe Photoshop, for example. What does a textile designer do? So a textile designer designs fabric, designs anything fabric related. It can be the design of the actual weave. So sometimes a fabric is already woven with a pattern. For example, stripes would be the easiest example. Or it can be a very beautiful rug. So it's woven, you know, the way it's woven, it already has a pattern. But these days, when we talk about textile design, we usually think about prints first, patterns, the lemons, right? So a person like me designs fabric. Why? What is so special about it? Like you can paint a lemon, right? But it doesn't make it a textile design. So if you have, for example, a 10-yard piece of fabric, it's not created as a 10-yard piece, right? You don't use a 10-yard roller or anything like that, or like a stamp. Of course you can see the pattern repeats and the way it's done. So the repeat unit is usually a square or rectangle, and whatever happens on top of the square repeats at the bottom, and whatever happens on the right repeats on the left. So when you step it out many times, it becomes a seamless design. How do you become a textile designer? There are many ways. Actually, these days you can take a course, a Skillshare class. You can, you know, many contemporary designers and artists offer classes. I will probably eventually also make a class. I did it the old school way. I believe in education strongly, so I went to college for textile design. I studied at the university. Why did you become a textile designer? So there is a fast and a long answer. I'll start with the quick one. So why did I choose textile design, particularly out of different kinds of design? So I was choosing among, I should probably say, fashion design, illustration, and textile design. I do like fashion, I do like clothes, but I felt like it was too much. It was very overwhelming, and I know fashion design is very competitive. So textile design is a subdivision of fashion design because it's related to fabric, and usually, you know, you use fabric to make clothes. So I decided I actually do like the patterns. I like the repetition. I was always mesmerized, you know. I didn't understand how patterns work, but I could tell like there is a repetition. But how do you do this? So as a kid, I used to sew. My mom and my grandmother did that too. We always had fabric in the house. So I like fabric, I like sewing, and that's number one reason. And then remember when, you know, computers appeared in our life, and there was this wallpaper, like Windows wallpaper, and it says choose your design for your desktop, and like you can have one picture stretched, right, or tiled. So when you click that button and it tiles it for you, I was like, wow, this was amazing. So that was another point of interest for me. As for illustration, I didn't choose illustration because I also felt like it was too difficult. Like, how do you even make it? And I also thought, like, oh, you need to be a really good artist. And textile design, I felt like I could do it. You know, I definitely had necessary skills, because textile design always starts with drawing motifs, separate lemons, right? So So I was like, I can totally do that. So yeah. What's your favorite part about being a textile designer? So my favorite part about being a textile designer is making colorways, which is color variations of the same pattern. For example, you have a red floral. You take the same artwork and you color it into a blue floral. So that's called a colorway. I adore making colorways. It's fun, it's cool. You know, you come to a fabric store and there will be a rack of fabrics and you see colorways together, and I think it's just so cool. Your least favorite part of being a textile designer? Where do I begin, right? I mean, I don't like fixing mistakes. When you are already so far ahead and you have done 10 colorways and then you find a mistake in the repeat. For example, like you have this lemon here and it's supposed to have this little leaf, but it's gone, like it's cropped, there is no leaf, or there's a big hole. So that's a mistake and it needs to be fixed. So you have to go back and fix it 10 times because you already made 10 colorways. Yay, right? So that part I don't like. Of course I'll do it, it's necessary, but I don't enjoy it. What does your typical day look like? So it depends what kind of textile designer you are. And I used to work at a company, a big corporation, and so at that time my day was like this. I would go to work, I would have breakfast at the cafeteria, very nice breakfast. That's one of the few things that I miss. And then, you know, I would meet up with my manager. My manager would give me a stack of printed out designs. So usually a collection is developed seasonally. The first thing to look at is what kind of product you are working on. I started as a bedding designer, first for adults. I first started as an apparel textile designer for a brief moment in my career, for women. And I did some children's clothes as well. So then my major job was in bedding. I did some other home products, some pillows here and there. Then for a long time I worked in stationery, so that would be wrapping paper and gift bags. I did also some like table napkins and stuff like that. So my boss would give me a stack of printed out works of wrapping paper. Let's imagine for Christmas, because Christmas is really a big deal for wrapping paper, right? So they would plan like, we need a Santa Claus wrapping paper, a reindeer wrapping paper, stars, glitter, snowflakes and stuff like that. And she would give me instructions what needs to be fixed on each design, or sometimes it would say like, recolor this in green, make the background red. Usually when you touch a textile design, if you touch one color, you have to fix other colors as well. You can't just, like, in rare cases you can just change the background and it works, but usually, you know, all colors are related to each other. So when you make the background, it used to be green and now it's red, you're like, whoa, there's something going on with the colors, they are vibrating. Then it would also be like, reduce the scale, like it's too big. Or the artwork came from different places, some other departments, or we purchased it through a studio. So it would be like there is an error there, like the Santa Claus, one leg is gray, one leg is red. So make them both red. What else? Like put this in repeat. The thing that I mentioned, right? Like it's not enough to have one Santa Claus to have a repeating pattern. It needs to be put in repeat. That's textile design slang, professional language. So yeah, and then I would, you know, meet with my manager. At the end of the day, we would also look through what I've done. But now I am a freelance textile designer, so I don't have a manager. I am the manager. So of course it's a whole new world. Things are different. So I wake up in the morning now, like I, you know, take my daughter to school. I'll do some kitchen work in the morning. For some reason, like I have energy to do that tedious work. And then I look at my calendar, I look what's going on, you know, what am I working on. If I participate in a design challenge, I have a deadline. So I will, work on that. Sometimes I need to paint new artwork from scratch, so I'll sit down and paint. But painting I usually leave for evenings and weekends because I don't have to be at the computer. So it's the fun part. So in the morning I will do whatever needs to be done on the computer. Sometimes I need to make colorways, sometimes I need to put things in repeat. Then when the pattern is ready, say for a design challenge on Spoonflower, a print-on-demand company for fabrics, I will submit it, and then I need to promote it, so I'll make mock-ups in Photoshop, and then I plan my scheduling on Instagram and other social media. Sometimes I immediately post, but usually I plan ahead. I look, okay, the voting starts on Thursday, so I will schedule it for Thursday. My mock-ups, I usually do like a full stepped out pattern, just flat, with a logo. And then I'll do a fabric mock-up. Sometimes I'll do a product mock-up, for example, a dress with my pattern. So a mock-up is a simulation, a visual simulation when you don't actually have a product. And it's big in textile design because, it takes a while from making a pattern to producing the fabric and then making something with the fabric. So a mock-up is this great way of using the wonders of Photoshop to pretend you have a product, to put something digitally on a shape. Usually if you open a mock-up, it's like white everything, white walls, white armchair, and then you put in your designs and it looks as if it's a real room, for example, with wallpaper. So yeah, what else? Yeah, it's a lot of self-promotion because I'm the marketing manager, I'm the sales manager and everything. I look at different aspects of my work. I recently opened a shop with silk scarves, so that was a big chunk of work too. That's a whole other thing with with the store, and you have to do that. You have to post products, also do mock-ups for them, choose the vendor. So I look, if I have any orders in the store. I check newsletter subscription. If I need to send out an email, maybe if there's a holiday, I will post a discount to my product shop. Yeah, whatever needs to be done on that day I will do. What kind of qualities are good to have for a textile designer? You need to be very detail oriented, that's for sure. It's good to have an eye for color, because color is such a big part of design and textile design. You need to be patient, you need to follow through because it's a lot of moving parts. And you need to be curious, I want to say, because you need to stay a little bit of like a child in your heart, because it's fun, it's a fun job. How can you not be creative creating artwork? If you weren't a textile designer, what would you be? So the thing is, I have actually been something before I became a textile designer. I've always had two passions in my life: languages and artwork. So when I was 16, I wanted to be a designer. I was getting ready to enter school, design school, but I got scared literally like 1 month before the exams. I was like, cancel that. I thought I didn't have enough talent. I thought I couldn't make it. I was super perfectionist. I didn't forgive any mistakes to myself. So I chose languages. I became a linguist. I became an English teacher, translator, interpreter. I've translated poetry. I've taught English a lot. I've tutored, kids and adults. I worked at a large shoe factory, and I taught people there, business professionals, because they went on international shoe fairs. So I taught English to them so they could communicate, at the airport, at the trade show. So yeah, I guess I would be, and I'm still a linguist. I still like languages. I'm a bookworm. I like reading and writing. And yeah, I would probably translate a book or something like that. I also always wanted to be on the silver screens since I was a kid. I wanted to be a TV, like a newscaster, right? News presenter. I was seriously considering going to Moscow and studying for that, but I also got scared. I was a shy kid. But now these days, you don't even have to go anywhere, right? You can have a YouTube channel, you can have your own TV. Who are your favorite textile designers? So I have a few. Of course, Maestro William Morris, the father of textile design, actually. He was one of the starters of the arts and crafts movement, and his idea was to bring crafts and arts together, opposed to the cheap manufacturing of wallpaper and home textiles. He wanted to bring back this tradition of like crafting beautiful handmade products. He was very inspired by medieval tapestries. He actually is becoming pretty popular nowadays. Previously he was like my secret crush, but now I feel like everybody knows William Morris. His name is still used. There is a company called William Morris Co. and they license away all his textile designs. You can get anything with his designs, which is great on the one hand, but on the other hand it kind of makes him, you know, like a little bit of pop kind of designer, which he is not. His designs are gorgeous. So the another one is Joseph Frank, a Swedish textile designer. He painted beautiful whimsical worlds, whimsical fruit. They're also beautiful. And another one, my recent favorite, is a female textile designer from the United States. Her name is Tamis Keefe, and she lived in the 20th century, and she designed a lot of handkerchiefs. She made like thousands of them. She was very prolific, very successful, recognized. You can still buy them on eBay with her name and everything. So it's so cool how, you know, like handkerchief is not even a thing anymore, but you can still buy them. They're still available. I think that's so cool. What is your textile design dream? Dreams. So I have two textile design dreams, which, you know, the more I'm working as a textile designer, the less I'm kind of focused on those dreams. Number one dream is I would like to see a celebrity wearing something with my design. That would be so cool. That would be so fulfilling. Or to see like a wallpaper that I designed in a movie, something like that, you know, or a TV show. A little bit of a fame craving, I guess, right? And the other dream that I have, since I'm making my own silk scarves and I love silk scarves, I would really love to collaborate with a big brand like Hermes or Echo. Yeah, so if you guys see this, call me. How stressful is a textile designer job? No, not really stressful. No, I mean, on a scale of 1 to 10, it's not very stressful. It's like 5 or 6. It really depends on where you work and what you do. You know, if you're in a company with toxic culture, of course it is stressful, but it's not because it's a textile design job. I think it's less stressful because you're not dealing with people directly, like except for your co-workers. Say I worked front desk jobs before and it was way more stressful. Textile design, you know, you're constantly communicating with a computer or you are painting. So yeah, it's not very stressful. Good news. What's your favorite kind of a textile print? Ooh, good question. I think a novelty pattern, conversational, it's the same thing. It's basically like stuff, like lemons is a conversational print, or animals is a conversational print. I mean, florals, who doesn't like florals? Of course, but florals are both easy and tricky because there are so many of them, and you know, there are many great designs and there are many not so great designs. We're like meh, you know, mediocre, average. But I like when a print tells a story. I like it when it's more than decorative, you know, like, I mean, of course lemons are decorative, but it's also kind of cool, like, hello, it's a lemon print. Where do you draw inspiration from? everywhere, right? I think most artists always say everywhere. So nature, I love nature. I love flowers. I'm a flower maniac. I have a small garden that I planted from scratch because I adore flowers. I made the garden so I can worship the flowers. I love watching them in their different stages. You know, I like being outdoors. I like walking. I love animals too. I'm a cat person. I also like vintage objects a lot, and I'm very inspired by the past. You know, I have this strange idea deep in my mind, deep in my heart, that back in those days people did things properly. You know, to be an artist you had to be very skilled. You had to be able to draw and to paint. These days, I'm sorry, but you don't have to be a good artist to be a textile designer. You can like trace stuff, you can print with a block print made from a potato. So it's okay, it's all valid, it's great, it makes it more accessible. But my personal values are within this old school traditional art making. So I'm very inspired by, you know, engravings and like old stamps, old calligraphy, how people, like, things used to be more elaborate back in the day. So yeah, what else? I'm inspired by global cultures, languages. I wanted to say food, but what does food have to do with textile design, right? What is your favorite color? Oh my god, this is the most difficult question in the whole wide world, because I love color in general. I love color as a concept. I love studying the ways you can use color. I can't pick one, it's impossible. I love all the color. You know, color is everywhere. It's in artwork, it's in your, you know, the way you dye your hair, your nails, your makeup is also the use of color. Like clothes, interior design, flowers, right? The sky, the color of the sky, the color is everywhere. And I personally prefer softer palettes, more balanced, like this, for example. But I want to be able to create different palettes, like dark palettes, bright palettes. I also go through like color stages. So I think right now I'm in a green stage. I really like olive green, this like military green. Which designs are you most proud of? So I came prepared. Of course, it's this guy. It's called Postal Reminiscence, and this is a silk scarf. I mean, look at it. I love it. It will always and forever be one of my absolute favorites. And I love this entire collection, which is called Not So Junk Journal Collection, inspired by junk journaling and, you know, vintage objects, vintage mail. Here is another design from the same collection called Plantomania, inspired by the past, right? By Victorians. You know how Victorians were creating botanical gardens, Kew Garden in London, and they would bring in flowers from Australia and other distant corners of the world, and they would, you know, paint and draw and document. Botany developed as a science. So yes, these guys are my favorites. Do you use products with your own designs? Yes, I do. I mean, I do love my scarves. I wear them all the time, and yeah, I do. Do you have to be a great artist to be a textile designer? No, I already answered this question. I mean, you definitely need some meta skills, basic skills like composition, color. Color is so big, but you don't need to draw very well, because you can draw digitally. And you know, when you draw in Adobe Illustrator, it already looks different. You don't need to portray. You know, when I went to art school as a kid in Belarus, the height of your skill was drawing a human head, and that's part of why I didn't go into design, because I wasn't very good at it. Right now, nobody wants you to draw a human head. Forget about it. I mean, it definitely shows your skill, but for textile design, it's absolutely not necessary. You can even do like abstract design. or stripes and like spots, brush marks. It's all valid, it's all in demand. And often when you work at a company, for example, you don't need to create artwork from scratch to be a textile designer. You can manipulate given artwork. The company will acquire artwork and you just need to be able to handle it, you know, to put it in repeat, to recolor it. There are so many different kinds of being a textile designer, different stages. You can be at a different point of this profession, you know. And some people even like communicate with the factory. They don't deal with design itself. It still counts. What is the ugliest trend in textile design? I think it's so personal, so subjective. I personally don't like this Y2K revival style. To me it's so weird. Like I remember, you know, year 2000 very well. I was 16 years old. It's strange to me that people find it attractive. It's basically like, it was very tacky. But remember how people used to say the 80s were really ugly and terrible. Now the 80s are like classic and cool. So yeah, it's not my favorite. I don't like kitsch art, like tacky kitsch art. Not my thing. I appreciate it, I respect it, but it's not for me. Like I said, I draw a lot of inspiration from classic era and traditional arts, sophisticated, fun. Even if I like a novelty print, it has to be sophisticated novelty print. Have you ever regretted being a textile designer, becoming a textile designer? Yes, I have. And it was very painful because I enjoyed it. But you know, when I started out working at a company, I wasn't making it. I wasn't good at it. I wasn't there yet. And I was like, did I make the wrong choice? I was a little bit over 30 at the time. I had a family, a daughter, and I like crossed everything out completely and went back to school and took a student loan. So I was like, did I make a mistake? You know, maybe I'm not fit for this job. But luckily it was not the case. It's just, you know, things require time. You can't make it overnight. You need to be patient with yourself. You need, you know, you need time to learn. And also, like, if you can't make it in one place, it doesn't mean that you won't make it in another job, in another position. You know, maybe you like weaving and you would like to be more of a weaver rather than a digital textile designer. So that's also the case. Favorite season to work on? I like spring to summer. I like this Mother's Day vibe, lots of beautiful florals, and Easter too. There's like bunnies and botanical artwork. I love that. I love botanical. So yeah, spring and summer. And I also like fall, not Halloween, but harvest. The harvest theme is always fun. Embarrassing textile design moment. I don't like working on holiday artwork, Christmas. I don't share a textile design secret. So, did you know that natural silk is a fabric that keeps you warm when it's cold and keeps you cold when it's hot? I'm not saying anything, but my scarves are silk. Advice to beginner textile designers. Number one, remember who you are. Remember your voice. Don't think you have to be like someone else. Trust your heart, trust your instincts. Number two, improve your craft. Try to get better. Work on your technical skills, right? And number three, believe in yourself. You can make it in any job if you are persistent enough. And don't give up, because if you give up, nothing's going to happen. Thank you.